Hi, guys.
Hi, Dr. Valerie.
I am so pleased that we get to capture your experience. I remember our first conversation when we just met after the thriving experience, and you were sharing your desires. Do you remember what your desires were at that point? What was calling you on this journey with us?
Um, I remember just wanting freedom and to
Mhm.
feel free. Um, there were many different layers to my desire. So one was like getting away from the job that I was in at the time. Okay,
All right.
I'm not sure what happened there, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. You can just pick up with answering the question about your desires.
So one was to be more in tune with myself and my true desires, which included finding a better job and space to be in a place where I could be authentically myself and celebrated
Mm.
for the work that I do. There was and still is a desire to like connect with my ancestors, better do that ancestral healing, and try and include my family in that, even though they're not directly in the program, still talk to them and have them realize that this is our ancestral trauma, like it's not just mine, like you're part of
Yeah.
it too. um there was like a layer of like sexual desires and relationship desires. Honestly, haven't delved into that too much yet. A lot of the transformation has been with me emotionally, and with getting out of that job situation.
And that was such a rapid unfolding. I remember when you were first talking about that desire, it felt like, well, maybe in a few months, years. It felt like what you were wanting to do was so out of reach and so unrealistic with setting up your own firm, right?
Yeah, I remember,
Can you
my plan was it was a 10-year goal, and in 10 years, I wanted to open my own firm and do my own thing, go into small private practice, and now it's, like, speeding up around the corner, coming back like, "Oh, I did not expect you to come this quickly, but thank you, and I guess let's get the ball rolling and get going so I can do this."
can you tell us a little bit more about um, of who you are, what you do, and how this opportunity came to be so quickly?
Okay. So I am 25 years old. I'll be 26 in July. I am an attorney. I've been practicing for over a year. I was a public defender. I started last March, right at the beginning of the pandemic. So it was a very hard period
Mhm.
working. That job situation was very emotionally traumatic for me. And your definition of trauma, which I heard you on the Guys We Fucked podcast. And when you gave your definition of trauma, I had to pause and rewind like 5 times to listen
Oof.
to it over and over again and write it down, because that was a paradigm shift for me. I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy shit."
Yeah.
Because thankfully, I don't have a lot of, like, extremely traumatic childhood experiences and no physical trauma that has been done to me, but the emotional trauma is a whole other layer that I never knew existed or considered to be trauma. I just thought, "Oh, this is what you go through in life, you just get through it." Um,
Right.
so right when you said on the podcast to register for the TTE, I like paused, registered, kept on playing the podcast.
You're a woman of action.
Exactly. I was like, I need this. I was like, whatever this is, I was like, bring that here. Like my
Mhm.
spirit guided me to hear you into registering for that, because that was exactly what I needed. Um,
Mhm.
so I did the TTE, and I was able to do a love seat with Jeffrey, which was extremely, extremely helpful and transformative for me personally. It was on my physical responses to uh, what had the emotional trauma that my job had been giving me. It was,
Yeah.
a rock in the pit of my stomach. It was like a Chinese finger trap in my throat, just full of anxiety. Like right before we started, I had to do a discharge with Jeffrey because I was sweating and my heart was pounding and I was so nervous to even delve into that. And at that point, I realized, like,
Yeah.
holy shit, I didn't realize how this was affecting me so much emotionally. I wasn't tuned into my physical responses or the nervous system responses to my physical background of what
Mhm.
and the work that I was doing in the office that I was in. And
Yeah.
for me, that was just extremely, extremely transformative. And the whole collective healing and trauma, and especially the ancestral work, really spoke to me, because I am very connected with my ancestors and already would honor them. But this is a whole another level of understanding and honoring them by understanding and honoring their traumas and what they went through,
Mm.
and acknowledging that, because I could be thankful of them, but to acknowledge them is a different level of
Yeah.
connection, which I had never experienced before.
Mm.
But yeah, when I had spoke to you, I was my career plan, because I'm young. I started at 24 practicing. So I was like, oh, I'll do like the 10-year public service, do the federal loan forgiveness. And then, by then I'll have plenty of experience. I'll open my own firm. I'll be 35. It'll be great. Um, and I was extremely unsatisfied with my job. I had been applying for other jobs since December, and the TTE was in March.
Mhm.
And then more things just kept on happening at the office, of like specific targeting and picking on me and having me do specific things that others weren't, where I was completely fed up. So I was
Ugh.
like, I didn't know exactly what path I would take to get into it, but I was starting to look more into, maybe I should open my own place sooner rather than waiting, because
Mhm.
I didn't like this experience and I don't want a repeat of this experience.
Yeah.
For myself, that's completely taking away that level, because I will be in control of the environment and the emotions in the job. So I called one of my former bosses. I've known him since I was in high school. An attorney I shadowed in high school and then worked for in college. And I asked for advice. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about opening up my own shop. And I had no idea how to do it, because I'm first generation everything, first generation American, college, law student, lawyer. Like, I don't know how to run a firm, or like, I know generally how it's supposed to run,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
all the little things like bank accounts and insurance and all these tiny, teeny little things
Yeah.
that I need to know, that I just had no idea of. And I'm like, well, I'm thinking about doing this sooner. I was still thinking maybe like 2, 3 years, because I was trying to do another thing that was like 1 year, and I was like, we'll see where we go from there. Um, and he was like, well, why don't you come work for me and we partner up, open up a new office, and then you just run it. And I'll stay in the main office and then you run the other one. And I was like, me? Me. Like me. I'm like, But I've been talking to him throughout my time at this job and, like, telling him, "Oh, yeah, I've had this many trials and cases," like, discussing things,
Mm.
and we would always talk and discuss, like, while I was working there, so, like, he knew me, knew my intelligence, and obviously had enough trust and confidence in me to want to go forward with this. So, now I'm, getting the ball rolling on me being able to practice in Florida where I'll be, go back to my family,
Mm.
be in that physically comforting space and now be able to venture out into my own thing. I'm so excited.
Oh, Dennis, I couldn't be happier for you. And to see that your 10-year plan unfolded within what, a couple of months?
2 months?
Ah, can you share with us how this work uncovering and healing intergenerational trauma, uncovering and healing PSD has supported you on this journey?
So I am part of the TTS, which is the shorter 10-week program,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Thriving Solution. And
Mhm.
is that, as a public defender, that was all I could afford to pay because I don't have my own firm yet and my own business. There's no base salary, couldn't do any outside work, like only able to do that, like contractually restricted.
And I remember having that conversation with you before and I felt your desire for this big transformation. And you were like, well, at this point, this is what I can do. And I was feeling so distinctly, and there was this confidence that, well, yeah, at this point, I could just feel that expansion was coming. Of course, neither one of us knew exactly how fast it would happen. So it just tickles me to no end. So you took a leap, although it was still a stretch. Either way, it's still an investment. It's still a stretch. It's still a leap of faith. So you took a leap into TTS. And how was that supportive for you?
I, especially in the past few weeks, have just realized the gratitude that I have for these other women that are in the weekly calls and for my smaller pod that we have our weekly calls as well. And just feeling so accepted. I've never had a
Mm.
good, warm, accepting, like fully accepting experience with women outside of my family. Like my mother and my sisters are that way, but like friendships, that kind of thing, I've never ever in my entire life had that confidence to do that. So at first, it was a little bit, okay, this is what we're doing. I'm like, I'd do it, I'd share. And then I started realizing how it was reflecting in my body.
Oh.
Different, like I wouldn't realize that I would be sitting like this or like
Mhm.
tensed up with my shoulders all the way up to my ears,
Yeah.
uneven. And now, like being cognizant of what my body is doing, relaxing my shoulders, putting it down.
Mhm.
Like I would have very, very tense, like rock hard shoulders. And now it's been like a month and a half since I got a massage, and like they're just starting to get a little bit more tense now. But I also just left this job, so like makes sense. Now it's showing up in the body. That's like, okay, now
Still working together.
release it. And just the calls with these women have been absolutely amazing. Sarah is our leader in the podcast that I attend, and uh, just amazing hearing other women's identifying prison guards and their breakthroughs, the jailbreak moments, and just being able to discuss with other people the things, like all the different visualizations and exercises that we do that really help contextualize these feelings, these PGs, these moments that I wouldn't have the tools to do otherwise because I didn't know it existed. I didn't know PSD was a thing. I didn't know ancestral trauma was a
Right.
thing.
Mhm.
So this program and everything has really given me the tools and the environment to feel safe in exploring these things, which has been absolutely amazing. I love all the women that are in the calls and in this group, in our Facebook group that share, because there is no judgment. There is no, oh, you're doing that. Or like, there's no snide comments, no,
Mm.
bad looks. Like, it is just all love and acceptance and understanding.
Mm. So happy that has been your experience. And when we feel safe inside, right, with other people in a community, it does wonders for our confidence, how we need to show up, right? From the body dropping the armor, the shoulders relaxing, to having capacity to say, hell yes, I'm going to lead an office. Hell yes, I'm going to, right? Not wait 10 years till I feel ready to open my own shop. But maybe start that conversation now and see where it goes.
Exactly. And like being able to have that safety in that group gave me more of the confidence in myself to make these changes and do this move. Because I've been in
Mhm.
that at the point of TTE, I was in that job for exactly a year.
Yeah.
And only in the past 2 months have I done, like, really done the work and have portrayed that confidence in myself that I knew I always had, but had been pushed down and trampled on by
Mm.
the people at that office. So I was able,
Yeah.
with the support of these women behind me in these groups, being able to raise each other up, that raised me enough to give me the confidence to do this.
Remembering who you are, who you've always been, and then those traumatic experiences. And like those traumatic experiences can be those daily microaggressions,
Mhm.
right? Just are there every day, but they erode our confidence. They erode our vitality, our capacity, and we're like collapsing. And so for you, this is such a huge reclamation, not only for you, which is huge in and of itself, for the whole lineage, right? For the women in your family, women who have come before you, your ancestors, whose hard work has enabled you to be the first across so many things. And now you're going to be also the first having your own firm, leading a firm, and going from there.
Yeah.
How does that feel, Idalis? How does that feel in your body?
Elation. I'm just like,
Elation.
like my stomach just feels like air, like it's just giddy, it's floating, like we're not weighed down by these rocks. Like all that has been gone, like it's just happiness. It's
Mm.
like, and leaving that job, I had a exit interview with the union yesterday,
Uh-huh.
and they were like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" I was like, excited, elation, like relief,
Yeah.
pure relief to be out of here. And they're like, "Oh, like that's not that obvious, like please tell us more of like what happened that you're feeling relief for leaving." Because some people might be sad or,
Mhm.
like a little, well, I guess sad is the only thing that I could think of, but to move on. And I was just like, get me the fuck out of here. Thank you.
Yeah. I love this so much. And I love that we're having this conversation literally the day before, after your exit interview. I want to celebrate you following your desires, even when it was so like logically looking at where you were, like your logical mind was saying one thing, like, I'm not quitting my job. My income is fixed. Um, Jumping into this program feels like a stretch. And there was something that you felt inside that guided you forward, and that quality, right? That you are a woman of action, combined with following your desires and knowing exactly what that action wants to be. That is just so powerful. What was it that for you, after hearing about this work on a podcast first and joining us for the Thriving Experience, learning about our programs, what was that deciding factor for you, deciding to jump in?
At the end of TTE, I was so grateful. It was exhausting going through all those emotions, especially the love seat. Like, oh my God, so many emotions
Yeah,
I've gone through, but I felt
such big work.
this level of peace within me of like,
Mm,
I want more of this.
yeah,
And like the book is great and I have read the book, but that's not the same as doing the work every week with accountability of other
yeah.
women. Because you
Mhm.
show up every week and you're hearing from these other women. There's a post on the Facebook group that happens. So that desire for me was like, I want more of this. And I realized that
Mm,
there was a lot more that I needed to work through in myself and ancestrally to heal this PSD inside of me. That like I scratched the surface and I still had an itch. Like
yeah.
I needed a fix, and this was the fix of healing PSD
Hey,
with this group of women.
I love that so much, Idalis. Do you have anything to say to maybe yourself when you were considering jumping into this healing journey, or anyone else listening who may be considering it? And of course, there is fear, there is doubt, there's all the prison guards, right? Are there any message either to yourself or anybody listening?
Uh, just just hearing that, I like got a little teary eyed. I feel like I'm gonna cry,
Uh,
but I am so happy to for my past self for making this decision and going into it. That the fear, the finances, how is it gonna work? What am I gonna do? But being able to still get it done and I figured it out, and so grateful for all the changes that have come, that it might seem impossible or like a mountain that you have to climb to get through to be here, but with the work, the mountain has turned into an anthill.
that gave me chills. Thank you so much for sharing your gorgeous quantum leap with us and what it took. And of course, the journey continues, and I'm so thrilled to be connected on this journey, and wishing you a most amazing transition. And of course, we'll be in touch and see where the path takes us next.
Of course, on this path to healing PSD.
Thank you, Dallas.
Thank
You're
you so much,
amazing.
Valerie.